When someone suddenly disappears, their last words can make or break the case. Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel. I'm your host Emily, and today we're counting down our list of the top 10 haunting last messages from people who disappeared. Coming in at number 10, "They're after me more than one." Mike McLean spent the evening of April 20th, 2019 at the Tropical Lounge nightclub in New Hampshire with his friends. That night, a dispute occurred between two women at the club. They stepped outside, at which point the situation escalated. A crowd formed, and Mike, who knew one of the women, broke the fight up, but the police had been called. They dispersed the onlookers, and it was at that point that Mike's friends lost track of him. A bit before 2 a.m. the next morning, Mike called his boss and said, "They're after me more than one." This ominous statement prompted her to call him back, but there was no answer. It's believed that he left the nightclub on foot, and his phone was last pinged at a McDonald's a few blocks down the street from the club at around the time he called his boss, but there are few clues for investigators to go on. His credit cards have shown known activity, and he hasn't been seen since. Number 9. I'm scared. Never mind. On June 21st, 2013, Brooklyn Farthing, her younger sister Paige, and cousin went to a birthday party in a field. Paige and Brooklyn's cousin decided to leave the party early on, since she had made plans to sleep over at a home of a friend who was also at the party. However, when Brooklyn's friend decided she wanted to spend the night at a boy's house, the two argued and the friend left. Towards the end of the party, Brooklyn was seen leaving with two young men. One of the men was dropped off, and the other man took Brooklyn to his house. It was at around 4 a.m. on June 22nd that Brooklyn called Paige and asked if their cousin could come pick her up. However, the cousin had had too many drinks and was in no condition to drive. Now, Brooklyn didn't want her mother to have to come get her, so she called her ex-boyfriend. He agreed to give her a ride home when he got off work, and it was at this point the man who brought Brooklyn to the house left. Now, before long, Brooklyn's ex-boyfriend received several texts from her. "Can you hurry? Please hurry," and then "I'm scared." However, another text came in telling the ex never mind, and that Brooklyn was going to another party. He asked who she was going with, but there was no response, and Brooklyn hasn't been heard from since. Number 8. Things are gonna get better. Enrique Medel began to fall in with the wrong crowd growing up. Enrique, then 13, began to hang out with a teenager named Andy who was around 6 years older than him. His mother Olivia had a bad feeling about Andy, but now that she was working full-time, she couldn't keep an eye on her son at all times. Sometimes Enrique would disappear in the middle of the night. Eventually, he was expelled from school for having a weapon. Olivia believes the firearm was Andy's idea. And then on March 16, 2011, Enrique, now 14, spoke to his mother and said, "Mom, I know you're going through a hard time, but things are going to get better." Then Olivia never saw her son again. Enrique's uncle spotted him that night outside a convenience store and had told him to go home, but the latter said he was going to stay with some friends. He stopped answering his phone later that night and has been missing ever since. Number 7. I'll be back. On January 13, 1980, park ranger Paul Fugate disappeared in what should have been a routine hike in Arizona's Chiricahua National Monument. Paul, who was last seen heading out to do a trail check around 2 p.m., told a coworker that they could start closing duties without him if he wasn't back by 4:30 p.m. He was then seen starting down the trailhead, and that was the last any person spoke to him or saw him. Now, his girlfriend alerted authorities, who undertook a search for him. They first assumed that he had been the victim of an accident and was injured or stranded in the backcountry. However, as the investigation continued and no trace was found, suspicions began to rise. One park volunteer came forward to say that he'd seen Paul in a truck with two strange men, leading some to wonder if he had been kidnapped. Or some proposed that he may have simply ditched his old life. Whatever the truth, no trace of Paul has ever been found since that day in 1980. To make things more difficult, Chiricahua has 17 square miles of canyons, treacherous terrain, and wildlands. The search and rescue teams have found absolutely nothing related to the park ranger. Number 6. Please call my husband when my body is found. One day, Geraldine Largay left a trail to use the bathroom and got lost. She knew the chances of her making it out of the thick Maine woods were slim, so she had been writing in her journal every day, and one of her final entries showed that she was resigned to her fate. "When you find my body, please call my husband George and my daughter Carrie. It will be the greatest kindness for them to know that I am dead and where you found me, no matter how many years from now. Please find it in your heart to mail the contents of this bag tag to one of them. Then her body was found more than 2 years later in a sleeping bag inside a zipped up tent. Text and journal entries revealed that she was alive for almost a month after she went missing. She tried on July 22nd to text her husband, who was meeting her at certain points along the almost 2,200-mile long trail, to get help, but the text didn't go through. She walked west and kept trying to send the message. 10 more attempts, the last one at 12:25 p.m., and she tried another message the next day, writing "lost since yesterday, off trail 3 or 4 miles, call police for what to do please, XOX." It also failed, but she tried one more time with no avail. By this time, she had set up her tent nearly 2 miles from the trail. She had some food, water, and her camping supplies, and the journal that she wrote in each day. There were entries through August 10th, then nothing until the 18th. It was the last entry 27 days later after she got lost. Number 5. I just want to talk while I have the chance. On August 9th, 2018, Matthew Weaver told his father that he was going out with a new female acquaintance. Matthew picked her up around 9:30 p.m. and dropped her off during the early morning hours of August 10th. Matthew then drove to an area in the Santa Monica Mountains. Near sunrise, he posted a Snapchat picture of a scenic view and is believed to have entered a hiking trail. A few hours later, Matthew's female friend received some strange messages. They read, "Like some crazy shh is going on, and I just want to talk while I have the chance." There was no further communication from Matthew. Now, Matthew's last known location, according to Snapchat and cell phone records, was near the Roses Outlook. At 1:30 a.m. on August 11th, several hikers in the area called 911 after hearing cries for help. Around that time, California Highway Patrol officers reportedly heard screams and possibly someone yelling, "He's got a..." Matthew's car was found near a hiking trail, but the keys weren't located until January 2019, when hikers found them a mere 25 feet from where the car had been. That same month, high-resolution drone photos of the area enabled Matthew's family to find a baseball cap and torn t-shirt they believe were Matthew's. Now, despite these strange clues, Matthew remains missing. Number 4. I'll tell you later when you call me, I'm so heated. On April 25th, 2009, Brittany Drexel sent a concerning message to her boyfriend moments before she went missing on a spring break trip in Myrtle Beach. "I'll tell you later when you call me, I'm so heated," Brittany wrote in one message. In the hour before she vanished, she also texted with her friend about a pair of shorts she borrowed and made plans to meet at the hotel to return them. While Brittany does not respond to the messages, the documents show that her cell phone continued to ping off cell towers in different locations before dying at 11:57 p.m. Now, her body was found in early 2022, and Raymond Douglas Moody pleaded guilty to her kidnapping, taking advantage, and ending her life. Raymond alleged that Brittany voluntarily got into a car with him and his ex-girlfriend on the night of April 25th. The trio then drove to a campground, where he flew into a rage and ended the life of Brittany. Number 3. No, I need the cops. In 2013, Brandon Lawson was living with his longtime girlfriend and their 4 children. One night, Brandon didn't come home on the night of August 7th. This led to an argument with Ledessa, his girlfriend, on the evening of August 8th. He had dealt with issues in the past and had recently relapsed, so Brandon staying out all night was a cause for concern. At around 11:53 p.m., Brandon grabbed his cell phone, a charger, his keys, and his wallet, and left with his pickup truck low on gas. At 12:38 a.m., he called his brother Kyle and said he'd run out of gas on Highway 277, not far from Bronte. Kyle and his girlfriend Audrey left to go get him gas. At 12:48 a.m., Brandon tried to call Ledessa again but got no response. At 12:54 a.m., Brandon made a discerning 911 call. Parts of the 43-second call were unintelligible. Brandon spoke of running out of gas and being in a field. He said he accidentally ran into some people before there was background noise that may have. The operator asked Brandon if he needed an ambulance. Amid intermittent background noise, Brandon first replied in the affirmative, but then changed his mind and said, "No, I need the cops." Now, Brandon did not respond to the operator after this, though the identified background noises seemed to get closer to him before the call ended. At 1:10 a.m., Kyle and Audrey found Brandon's truck. They called Brandon and managed to reach him one last time. Brandon said he was 10 minutes into the field and bleeding and implored his brother to get him quickly. The call ended and Brandon responded to no further calls or texts. Now, multiple searches for Brandon yielded nothing, and neither his bank account nor his cell phone showed any activity after that night. Number 2. No service in Yosemite. Gabby Petito and Brandon Laurie were fiancés traveling together on a van life journey across the United States. The trip was planned to last 4 months and began on July 2nd, 2021, but Gabby disappeared on August 27th. On August 27th, a text from her phone was sent to her mother, which read, "Can you help Stan? I just keep getting his voicemails and missed calls." Now, the message raised concerns because her mother said that Stan was her grandfather and that she never referred to him by his first name. The last last message, sent on August 30th, simply said no service in Yosemite. Her mother expressed uncertainty about who sent these messages. Now, after Gabby's disappearance, Brian raised suspicion when he drove the van from Wyoming back to his parents' Florida home and refused to discuss her whereabouts. He was deemed a person of interest in the case, and an arrest warrant was issued on charges of him making withdrawals using her debit card. He then left his home on September 13th and was reported missing 4 days later. On September 19th, Gabby's remains were found in Wyoming's Bridgerton's National Forest. An autopsy found that she died by manual strangulation, and after months of speculation around Brian's whereabouts and an extended search of the area around his home, his skeletal remains were discovered in a Florida park on October 20th. It was confirmed by an autopsy on November 23rd that Brian had died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound in the head, and the FBI later announced that he had admitted to ending Gabby's life in his notebook, which was found near his remains. And coming in at number 1, if I die, it may not be an accident. Susan Powell was reported missing in December 2009 when her and her family was living in West Valley City, Utah. That night, her husband Josh Powell claimed to have gone on a camping trip in the middle of the night with their sons. Susan, he said, stayed home because she felt tired. As soon as I heard he was back and Susan was not with him, I instantly said to myself, what has he done? Christy Helswell, Susan's friend said. Susan would have never allowed him to ever take the boys out in the winter to the desert in the middle of the night. Never. I never believed his story at all. Now, at the bank in which she worked, inside a safe deposit box that belonged to her, investigators discovered a handwritten will and testament. In the will, Susan had written about how bad her marriage had become and that Josh had taken out a $1 million life insurance policy on her. If I die, her note said, it may not be an accident. This is our biggest piece of evidence, said the police. It's our last words. There was no doubt this document was authored by Susan. Authorities also determined that Josh had filed paperwork to withdraw money from her retirement account about 10 days after she disappeared. At the time of her disappearance, Susan's close friends said her marriage had been in turmoil for years and that she had even seen a divorce lawyer. In February 2012, Josh ended his own life in a house explosion during a supervised visit. Josh locked out the social worker from the home upon their arrival. Since then, Susan's case has run cold. Well, that's all for our list of the top 10 haunting last messages from people who disappeared. Which one do you think is the creepiest? Let us know in the comments down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm your host, Emily, and we'll see you next time. Peace.